Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at the Spanish language NFL football card sets from major manufacturers. And this is this is interesting in how focused it is, because there are really only three sets, or four, that I'm going to be looking at, because of a unique quality to the NFL, which is that when we think about the great American sport, we think about baseball. But in reality, baseball, while being very much American, has ported across to other nations pretty well. Japan's really big on it. Venezuela and the Caribbean is really big on it. It's in the Olympics, for crying out loud. Basketball, of course, is all over the place. That is a really popular sport. And so in both cases, there's a lot of opportunity for foreign language cards for the major league sports. And then, of course, in hockey, we're not even the big fans of hockey. That's really more popular in a lot of other countries. But football is different. American football, or more correctly, real football, is very, very, very much American only. Canada really likes it, but they have their own league. Outside of that, there's some interest in Europe, but apart from that, our big place for NFL spillover is really our neighbors to the south. We do have occasional games played down in their capital city of DF, but past that, it's not a strong market, but it's about the only market that we can really kind of bump into. And so card companies have played around with, whether it's Mexico proper or the Southwest, they've played around with the Mexican language release of cards in a couple of little starts and fits. And the first one is Topps in 1977. So in the case of Topps, it made a lot of sense for them to do that, because in the 1960s, they made card sets for Venezuela in baseball. And so once they've got that in place, it made sense in 1977 to make a set for Mexico called Topps Mexican. And this is a complete parallel of the main release, the 528 card football release that we're used to. And what a card to use for it, too. I mean, this is a really great design, especially because since this card is different and exotic because of all the Spanish text on it, all over the card back. The positions often have a different letter or two-letter designator for them. The big thing, of course, comes down to the name, the different names that they have for the teams in Spanish, and this card really shows that off. So the Bears are the Osos, the Oilers are the Petroleros, the Redskins are the Pieles Rojas. Just really cool seeing all these names. Or I guess I shouldn't say all these names. I should say the ones that translate, because you've also got the 49ers, you got the Seahawks, you got the Raiders. It's not always translated. And then, of course, with the Broncos, well, Broncos is a Spanish term, so that just kind of fits. But at any rate, being able to see all of these different words on these cards that we're so used to is really fun. But like I said, it's the entire set. So the league leaders cards, the playoffs cards, the checklist cards, the players who are all pros, the 1,000-yarder tags, all of that stuff is in Spanish, which just adds so much exoticism to this card set. It's really, really cool, really fun to look at the cards, which are kind of tricky to come by because they were definitely not as prolific as the English language release. But I do have to note something about how they were packaged, which is that they were not packaged in large quantities in each pack. And so that means that the gum stains are a lot more common, which means these cards are usually found with gum stains. It's not always the case, but it is very common. But they also tend to have little barbs on them because they came in 4-card sheets. I don't know if this was how they were shipped to the South and then packaged, or how that works. You can find some cases where there are 4 cards in a row on a little mini sheet that are all perforated. But usually you do find these cards with the perforation tabs on the edges, which is just kind of par for the course for so many of these cards. But the wrappers are a unique component to this story because they're actually collectible. There are 5 different players who are featured on the wrappers of this card set. So you got the Falcons, you got the Bills, you got the Browns, you got the Dolphins, and you've got the Eagles, all 5 of those teams show up. So if you happen to collect one of those teams, you can try to pursue collecting the wrapper for it. And in the case of 2 of these, they're very collectible because O.J. Simpson and Bob Greasy are featured on 2 of the wrappers. So some heavy hitters in that regard, for better or for worse. Unfortunately, the card set was not popular enough for us to get another release, so that meant that this was a one and done, and all through the 1980s we had basically nothing for Spanish language cards for the NFL. In the 90s, we had some new companies popping up who were trying to explore new areas and find new avenues, and so we got a couple of new opportunities. And the first of those companies was Pro Set, which made sense. They were already doing French language cards for hockey, and so it made sense for them to do it for, or they were beginning to do it for hockey. So it did make sense for them to do it for football as well. But their journey to making a Spanish language card set was not quite a linear one, because in their main English language set, Series 1, they had a subset that was called Think About It. This is a part of their fact relationship, and in this case, these are little PSAs, public service announcement cards, where every card has a really tight headshot of a player, and then there is a message, or not a message, but a title down at the bottom for the subject that he's concerned with, and on the back is a personal message that he's giving to kids about whether it's drugs or education or whatever it is, about the importance of focusing on making good decisions and preparing yourself for the future. Really cool. 9-card set, but one of the players featured in this group was Anthony Munoz, who's Hispanic, so his card was all in Spanish. In fact, it's not really a think about it card, it's a piénsalo card. And for us collecting, this was so cool, such an exotic card, because there's this one card that comes out that is, well, it's in Spanish. It looks different. It's a lot of fun. And in Series 2, they had another Think About It set with another Piénsalo card in it, because they had Ron Rivera featured. So that meant that between the 2 card sets in 1991, there were 18 Think About It cards. 2 of them were in Spanish. Great practice for the card set that they would eventually create for their 1991 release, which some people refer to as 1992. It's, in the same ballpark. But the 1991 Pro Set Spanish set is not a parallel, but it is a hybrid parallel of the main cards in the set. Every card in the Spanish set is featured in the main set, but most of them are from Series 1, some of them are from Series 2. And the card set doesn't even mirror the set, because it doesn't have the league leaders at the front. It just starts off at Atlanta, Buffalo, Chicago, Cincinnati. The cards look the same as the regular cards in the English set. The card numbers are very different because of the different positioning. It is 9 cards per team, but there are no coaches. So each one of these teams is a hybrid. The Buffalo Bills and the New York Giants, there are only 9 cards in each of those. And the cards are all in Spanish. Everything is there in Spanish, especially the team name, which is, whether it is the Bengalíes de Cincinnati, the Vaqueros de Dallas, the Raiders de Los Angeles. We once again get to see all these cool team names, but the text is a lot smaller on these. And I don't know why, because, even when you have the Pieles Rojas de Washington, that still fits comfortably onto the card. And so I don't know why the text is shrunk, but it is the red flag to make these cards stand out. So if you happen to run across them, they do look different from the regular English language cards. Just on a natural, they look different from the English language cards. But otherwise, like I said, it's mainly the card number and obviously all the text that's different from the main cards in the English language set. 28 cards, or 28 teams, 9 cards per. After card number 252, we move on to the rookies, or should I say the novatos. And this is most of the rookies in the main card set. Each one of these rookies has novato on it, as opposed to the draft position, which was on the main cards. So these ones definitely stand out. And Brett Favre is one of the rookies featured in this card set. So that means that this is one of the really unique and rare cards of all of his rookie cards, this one here in the set. After the rookies, we get the Pro Bowlers. Only not quite, because in the main English set, we had the AFC Pro Bowl team, and then we had the NFC Pro Bowl team. In this case, they truncated it, and they took just the big stars to create an All-Pro team from the same cards. So even though they're approached like the Pro Bowl teams, they're actually constructed like an All-Pro team, again without a coach. And then the last 3 cards in the set are Think About It, or excuse me, they are Piénsalo cards. And they have Anthony Munoz, they have Ron Rivera, but they also have Biscuit. Cornelius Bennett's card was translated into Spanish for this card set, and so his card is the last one in the card set, and it is the only one of the Think About It cards that is actually altered. And if you're wondering about the difference between the original Piénsalo cards and the ones in the Spanish set, look down at the bottom, and on one side of the bottom it says Official Card of the NFL, or it says La Tarjeta Oficial de la NFL. And that's the main difference between it. Well, the numbers are the main difference, but that's the main way that you can tell the difference between the original English version and the actual Spanish version. And that's the set. But it's not everything that they did, because they did also do a little SP set, which was, well, it's an insert set, but it's basically like the SP cards. These cards are all numbered E1 through E5. So that's the big difference, but they're kind of jumbled. The first 3 cards are 3 Hispanic stars. There's Tom Flores, there's Anthony Munoz, and there's Tony Casillas. Now for Anthony Munoz, he's also in the main set, but his card looks totally different for the SP card, or for the insert card. But it's E4 and E5 that are really significant, because E4 is a Super Bowl card with a wonderful Super Bowl art theme on the front that we didn't have in the English language set. So this is the one card. I mean, technically you could say the 3 cards in front are unique to this set as well, but this is the one card that really is a distinct, special card set, or card featured in this Spanish language card set. But the last one, E5, is one we're very familiar with, because that is the Santa Claus card, but it's a card that is known as the Happy Holidays card. Or for the Spanish version, it's known as the Felicidades card. And art on the front is exactly the same. On the back, everything's in Spanish, nothing too special about it, and that brings this set to a close. So it's not too complex, but it's a really good right-sized card set that does a great job of hybridizing everything about Pro Set to come out really, really well. Now, Pro Set did not do another set in the next year, probably because they were having financial troubles and ownership. It was a mess for them. But nobody picked up the way. Nobody filled the void. Even Pacific didn't bother to do that, which is kind of weird when you think about what they were doing in baseball. We wouldn't see another Spanish language football card set until 1994, when Upper Deck decided to take a swing at it. And Upper Decks is a little bit confusing because it's advertised as Upper Deck. That's the way that it is presented. The packs give away what's really inside the packs, because inside the cards themselves are collector's choice cards. And I mean, they are literally collector's choice cards. This is an almost complete parallel of the regular set. The rookies, right off the bat, they are the same full bleed image. They have the same college uniform. Everything about this card is the same as we saw in the regular English language version. When you shift over to the images of 93 cards, again, all the card numbers are the same. The card design is the same. The write-up actually is not. All of the cards in this set have, it's known as Upper Deck Spanish, but it's really a bilingual set. They did what bilingual sets in hockey had been doing, where they took the write-up and they shrunk it down, they abbreviated it a bit, shrunk it down, and then put in the Spanish language underneath. So it's only partially a Spanish language card, but when you look at the main cards, this is the dead giveaway that this is really just a normal card that happens to have Spanish on it as well. Because the position is in English, the bio is all in English, the stats are all in English, Everything about this card is in English, except they also happen to have a little write-up down at the bottom in Spanish, and you can see there's not a lot of room in these main player cards. So it's a little bit misleading. It's kind of bold that they were trying to do what had been happening in hockey that even by this time was kind of falling away from hockey. I think it had almost completely fallen away from hockey. But I did mention that it's an almost complete parallel of the set because toward the end of the set, they took out whole chunks, whole sections of the set. And that means that there are a couple of stars that don't even show up in this set because their card was basically pulled out of that group. And as a result, the checklist, instead of having 4, we only have 3. The last checklist being kind of that hybrid space. And so it's the Sterling Sharp checklist that does not make it into this card set. Fortunately, they do have the 2 expansion team cards. So the Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars, the introductory cards do show up in this card set. Obviously, they have a shortened write-up with English at the top, Spanish at the bottom, as you would expect. And that's what they did for the set. They did not do any parallels. They also didn't do any inserts, like none. This was even more simplified than what they'd done in Pro Set. And it was not popular enough for Upper Deck to bother to do it again. In fact, we would get essentially nothing again all the way through the millennium. But there is one honorable mention that I'll throw in there, which is that Score, I did want to do major card brands, so Topps, Pro Set, Upper Deck, and now Score. Score did do a card set with Bimbo Bread, where they have small lenticular cards, wonderfully horizontal, really great landscape on them. These cards are about the size of tobacco cards. So they are, if you look at the width of the card and compare it to the width of a normal upright card with the standard dimensions, this card is a little bit wider than a normal card is wide. So it is really quite small. And while they have a wonderful amount of game time film in the lenticular motion, it's very difficult to read. But these little Mexican released cards, released by Bimbo, created by Score and Sportflix, is the last portion of this chapter. I wanted to throw it in here because, well, I'm kind of running low on things because there really wasn't much done for Spanish in football. And that's a shame because it's always fun to get these variations. And basketball had a fair amount. Baseball definitely had a fair amount. Hockey, of course, had all of its French language cards. It's too bad that we didn't get more in football, but football is it's too American. It's really at its core and in every way, it's just way too American. But at least we did get these card sets. And it is a lot of fun to be able to collect, especially if you're a player or even more so a team collector. These cards should really help to bring out your whole collection. I've always had fun with these. So that's what I've got to say about this. So now, if you have not subscribed to my channel, I do urge you to do so. And look around at my other videos because I love to cover pretty much everything about sports cards. So definitely check it out because I got some really fun stuff. And, well, yeah. Thank you very much for watching.